Welcome in to our living room. Friday Live Irish Hello, Shane Maloney, about to be joined by co-host / producer Aiden O'Neill once he gets everything set. Hear him in the background there. It's going to be a standard football picks day. We're going to go through about 5 college football games tomorrow that we got our eye on, that we're going to be dialed in on, and then we're going to go through our feast and potato famine picks for Sunday's NFL slate. How do you feel?
Feel really good. There was some shakeup in the MLB yesterday, too. Craig Stammen's the manager of the Padres, which is pretty crazy.
I guess that 9.5-hour interview that Albert Pujols and the Padres conducted did not come to fruition.
I couldn't help but think of you, Shay, too, because now Albert's still in the open market. So if Ali ends up departing, then there's another option.
Yachty just accepted a managerial position in the Venezuelan League, so he's probably still on the table as well.
Great.
In terms of MLB spots. So yeah, I got my eye on that next year. All right, let's get right into college football. I want to start with the 10 a.m. game. College game day is going to be in Lubbock, Texas. BYU, Texas Tech, probably the biggest Big 12 game of the entire season. Cougars are still undefeated. They're 8-0, 5-0 in conference play. This is by far their toughest test of the year. They've been able to pass all the other tests with flying colors. They're getting wins week in and week out. But it's a Texas Tech team that is probably the healthiest they've been in a while in terms of they'll have Baron Morton, who has started to settle back in. That defensive line for Texas Tech, one of the best in the country. They spent dang near $10 million on, and it's worked. Some of the highest sack numbers in the country with Bailey and company. Have one of the best linebackers and defensive players in the country with Rodriguez, the quarterback turned linebacker who seems to force like 3 fumbles a game. Very good Texas Tech team.
Very good.
And I set the stage like that because I don't know about you, but I think this is finally where BYU gets a tally in the loss column.
Yeah, I'm all over that as well. I think the spread just tells us everything we need to know. They're giving them 10.5 at home. That's just saying that, hey, Texas Tech is the overwhelming favorite. They should get it done, and I really do believe that's the case. They've been battle tested. They dropped a game on the road at Arizona State. And for ASU, BYU winning this game would be more beneficial in a sense, because then you would have the leg up on Texas Tech with the potential tiebreaker. So I know who we'll be rooting for, but I do think that the Texas Tech Red Raiders are simply a better football team. Bachmeier's been great as a freshman quarterback, but something's got to give eventually. You think on the road, college game day environment. So I'm all over the Red Raiders. I think they win by a touchdown. It's hard to say if they'll cover 10.5 just because that's a whopping mark, but they're going to get this win.
No, I'm glad you brought up Bachmeier because he's been a revelation in terms of a true freshman quarterback that it's hard to believe that you're getting 2 more years from Bear Bachmeier after this one. Like the way that all unfolded, he was supposed to go to Stanford. That didn't come to fruition after Jake Retzlaff, the BYU quarterback, got into some trouble, had to transfer. And all of a sudden, Bear Bachmeier gets a chance to start his true freshman season. He comes to BYU, and he's led him to an 8-0 start and now gets 2 more years. And that's great for BYU because now they don't have to worry about post-Retzlaff life. This is post-Retzlaff life.
Yeah.
And it's not a situation where Retzlaff does whatever he does this season in a BYU uniform, and then the next few years you're having to maybe pluck from the transfer portal or whatever. You get a true freshman that was ready to start day one, has started day one, and now you're a top 10 team in the country. Very impressive, and I never saw that coming. It wasn't even a guarantee that Bachmeier was going to start week 1 in Utah game. I didn't give him a chance really to win in the Iowa State game, even with a banged up Iowa State team a couple weekends ago in Ames, because of they barely beat Colorado, which that's aged even more poorly. They kept it close with West Virginia at home in Provo. That's aged pretty poorly since then as well. But they got it done against Utah. They got it done against Iowa State. There's reason to believe they could do it again if they're just that kind of team against Texas Tech. But 8-9. Both on the Raiders.
All day.
Next game I want to get to is Georgia at Mississippi State. This is a Georgia team that has played with their food week in and week out, and yet they still find a way to get the job done every weekend. And on the flip side, it's a Mississippi State team that is keeping every single game they play in close, and then until they finally got in the win column in their last one, dropping them. They kept it close against Texas. They kept it close against Florida and ended up losing. They kept it close against Tennessee, and then ended up losing. It's a team that has played to the level of a lot of the top teams in the SEC for parts of games and then just crumbled at the end, lost games they weren't supposed to. They finally got it done at Arkansas, and now they host a very, very good Georgia team. I was thinking about this UGA team, Aiden. If they didn't end up losing to Alabama, which in that second half they didn't allow a single point to Alabama in that game a month or so ago. If they don't lose that game, they're undefeated, and they're in the conversation of like best team in the country with Ohio State.
Yeah.
And instead they dropped that Alabama game. Then they've kept it close with teams they probably shouldn't keep it close with. And the narrative is just completely switched around this Georgia team where it's like, okay, this is a less talented Kirby Smart team. And that might have been true regardless.
Yeah.
But if that game ends up differently, then I don't think any of those narratives are flying around. I think the old Georgia narratives are flying around where it's like, all right, these are the SEC favorites again. Like, nobody is putting them above Alabama and Texas A&M right now, or hardly anybody is, at least.
No.
And so they go on the road. It's going to be a tough environment in Starkville. It always is with the Cowbells. Mississippi State team that's coming off a win. They're going to have some juice. The spread is under 10 points. I think Georgia, this is finally the game, though, where they kind of hammer a team into the ground and they assert that dominance. They haven't really done it all year. I think they do it. They get it done this one.
Mississippi State all season long has done a phenomenal job at just hanging around and doing enough to stay in a football game. I would agree with you. I think this is the game where Georgia wins by multiple touchdowns because it feels like we're waiting for that. The team, although it's one of the less talented teams in the Kirby Smart era just because every group he's had has been loaded, they're still really good. And Mississippi State, I know we're deep into this season now, but they haven't had to play a team like Georgia. Like, they had to play Texas, I get that, but Texas hasn't been what we thought. Georgia's a different animal. This is a different animal. And even though they're hosting under the Cowbells, all the amazing parts of Starkville in that environment, I just don't see a world where they come out on top.
It's a Georgia team that plays Texas next weekend, and then they finish with Charlotte and Georgia Tech. So there could be a look-ahead spot here in terms of it's like, okay, we just got to get over that Texas hump.
Yeah.
I know Georgia Tech's one of the better teams in the country as well, but I think there's still a pretty stark tier change in terms of Georgia Tech and Georgia at the end of the year.
Yep.
That was one of the better games of the entire season at the end of last year, that Georgia Tech game. But if they get through the obvious look-ahead spot with Texas next weekend, I think Georgia will handle their business finally against a Mississippi State team that finally won a game of their own against Arkansas. Texas A&M travels to Columbia, Missouri to take on the Tigers. Last time we saw the Mizzou Tigers in action, it was the Vanderbilt loss in Nashville. Halfway through, starting quarterback Bo Perbula gets his leg twisted at the goal line, had to be air-casted and carted off the field. And it was initially where it's like, okay, he's out for the season, and then there was positive injury news because nothing was broken, but he's definitely not playing in this one. He's probably not playing the rest of the year anyway. I can't believe this spread with a third-string quarterback, because if you remember right, in Game 1 against Central Arkansas, beginning of the season, it was still a quarterback battle between Sam Horn and Bo Perbula. And Sam Horn, his first really play of the season, designed quarterback run, and he broke his leg. He's out for the rest of the year. And so it's third-string quarterback, true freshman, Matt Zollers, talented kid. This will be his first start. I'm glad his first start is going to be at the confines of his of Faurot Field at home. Not so happy that it's against Texas A&M, an undefeated number 3 team in the country. So we're going to see what Zollers has. We're going to see how, after a bye week, how creative the play calling can get for a true freshman to take some of the pressure off of him. And that seems like it should be an easy proposition when you have Ahmad Hardy and Jamal Roberts as the running back duo there. But Texas A&M knows they're probably going to run it. They're going to sell out to stop the run in this game, and that's how they're going to win the ball game if they do so. And so Zollers will have to beat A&M with his arm. You've seen that happen to A&M a couple times already this year. Can Zollers, as a true freshman, do it? I don't know. But again, I don't know. I was very surprised to see the spread stay under the hook. It's under 7. It's 6.5. Like, if bettors can go out and bet plus a touchdown for Mizzou or minus a touchdown for A&M. And if they think the Aggies are going to win, they're going to. I just can't believe they're not getting the hook.
Yeah, it's really shocking when Shea just laid out all the Mizzou has gone through this season, the ups and the downs. Marcel Reed has just been so good for Texas A&M and has taken that next stride this season after Connor Wegman was there, and it was kind of a battle last season. Now Wegman with Houston, and Marcel Reed's taken over that offense. But his dual threat ability is really what sets him apart, and that would still make me comfortable just assessing everything that Mizzou's gone through to still pick A&M in this game. It's just tough to pick a home underdog with the circumstance, but
Yeah.
I do think that A&M is due for a loss. So if it happens this time, I don't think I would be extremely shocked. When you're undefeated and you're in the SEC and it's a war zone every week, it's going to give eventually. There's going to be a week down the road where they drop one.
Yeah,
So
and I thought
maybe
that
it's Saturday.
too. It's not likely that they finish the season undefeated, and their next couple games are South Carolina and Samford. And what are the chances they lose those games either? But they finish at Texas. I think that's where it happens. I can very well see an 11-1 season finishing with a loss to Texas. I give Mizzou a better shot in this game just because the spread is kind of urging you to do that. It's just breaking through the cloud of negativity and pessimism that occurred after that Bo Prabula injury, where it's kind of like the cloud of, all right, the season is over. That's the issue here. And I think this will be a huge test of mental aptitude, mental toughness, coming off the bye week and coming off that Vanderbilt loss where you lose your starting quarterback and you're down to a third string now. If they can fight through that and keep it close, then it's like, wow, props to Mizzou, but I don't think A&M will drop this one. I think they're in a spot where they can't drop this one.
Yeah.
To a team with a quarterback situation like this if they want to play for something where they're in position to do so right now.
Well, they're completely in control of their own destiny, and that's the beauty of it too. But if you drop this game and then you drop that Texas game to end the season, that's a 2-loss team. You're probably towards the bottom of that bracket. You have to play in that first round rather than getting a bye. So
yeah,
all these games mean so much.
Absolutely. Another ranked-on-ranked matchup. Number 9 Oregon travels to Iowa City, take on the number 20th ranked Iowa Hawkeyes. It's an Iowa team that's just kind of quietly they've flown under the radar, and the first playoff committee rankings come out, and they're ranked top 20. And I agree with it. Their 2 losses are fine losses. It was at Iowa State in the beginning of the season when that was a full-strength Iowa State team. It's not that was a way better team than we've seen from the Cyclones the past few weeks that now have over half of their opening day starters on defense injured. They lost by 3 points on the road in that rivalry matchup, and then they lose at home by just 5 points to the number 2 team in the country in the Indiana Hoosiers. Those are 2 good losses, 2 losses that I don't bat an eye at, and they've taken care of business in every single one of their games. However, Oregon is still looking for a marquee win because that Penn State win has really not helped them at all.
Yeah.
Anymore because of Penn State's been this joke team, and I'll get to them a little bit later. But they get ranked at 9th, well below where they were in the AP poll. I think way below where public has perceived them after they got the 1 seed and had an undefeated season last year. I think this is when Oregon, I want to say this is when Oregon, kind of like the Georgia conversation, just dominates a team. However, I'm going to give Iowa some benefit of the doubt. I think this is a backdoor cover situation. I think this is like a nasty game on the road. Oregon struggles to move the football because a lot of teams struggle to move the football against Iowa. I think there's a late field goal in this game where it's like, wow, Oregon has controlled this really from start to finish, but an Iowa field goal just made this a 6-point game or a 4-point game. So I'm giving Oregon the win, but I do think it'll be a nasty slop fest when a lot of people are picking Oregon to just kind of dominate after the disrespect of the number 9 ranking.
Yeah. I think it's impossible to act like we've watched Iowa all year long because that's really how under the radar they've flown. So it's almost just looking at that resume and saying, how do you stack up against Oregon? We know how Iowa is going to bring it week in, week out. They're gritty, especially defensively. And the joke has always been that their quarterbacks have under 200 passing yards a game, and they still somehow find a way. But I agree. I think Oregon's going to get it done in this one. I like that idea on the cover. I'd probably give Oregon that -6.5, and they win by 7 to 10 points, just because of the talent discrepancy. They're looking for a win of this magnitude. But this is what happens in a lot of cases in the Big Ten is you're not going to get tested a whole lot. Like Oregon didn't get tested a whole lot last season besides that game at home against Ohio State where they came out on top barely. This is a test. And it's not the largest test, but it is one of the few ones they've had this season, and they need to capitalize in a big way.
Oregon team that's been kind of led by their defense in a lot of points this season. I think that happens again against Iowa to get the job done. One last game, pretty important ACC game for Virginia. 5-0 in ACC play. They have the NC State loss, but that doesn't count towards their conference record because they played 9 teams against, or 9 ACC teams, but the conference you only play 8. So a lot of weird crap there. But they're technically undefeated in ACC play. At home against Wake Forest, this spread is only 6.5. It's another 6.5 kind of eyebrow-raising spread. Virginia has not. They just beat Cal by 10 points. That was their last game, was Virginia beating Cal by 10 points. That was the first time they had beaten a team by double digits since September 20th against Stanford. So they have been in battle after battle after battle, and props to them, they've come out with one-score victories. But it's been against teams like North Carolina and Washington State that you don't really, I don't know, usually winning one-score games is important, and it is that Virginia is in a position to be ranked top 15 in the country. It's just they have shown a lot of hesitation to back them the entire 12-game season.
Yeah.
I don't think this is the game they drop. I think it's on the road at Duke next game that does them in. So I'm going to pick the Cavaliers to beat Wake Forest here at home. But I think if this is at the Demon Deacons place, I'm picking Wake Forest with not very much hesitation.
Yeah. And with all that one-score game trend, I don't see that changing again against Wake Forest. These are two ultra-competitive teams. The ACC hasn't really had one squad that is impressing you enough to pick them to go deep in a college football playoff. Like, that's just kind of how the conference has been. There's question marks with every single team. And the same can be said for Virginia. But I agree, Duke has been so good with Darian Mensah at quarterback. That feels like a game that you're going to lose. But at home, and I know we've sat here and picked all the favorites, but it really does feel
sometimes weeks play out.
Yeah, it feels like it's Virginia's week again against a Wake Forest team where when they're at home, they should get the win.
I'll give you a crazy, watch out for the underdog. I'm looking at that Indiana-Penn State game. And I know that sounds funny. I just said Penn State's been the joke team, the armpit team of the country of the season, and rightfully so. They're 0-5 in Big Ten play. But this is the Nittany Lion team that they were tied with Ohio State at halftime. And they kept it close with Ohio State, then they fell apart in the second half. Now you're playing at home against Indiana. Is Indiana a team that finishes undefeated? They very well could be, but I don't know. It sounds ridiculous to say that. I can picture a world in which Penn State and Indiana are in a, for some reason, close game in the fourth quarter.
Yeah. Tomorrow.
I really can. And that's not to say Indiana won't just win a game like that. They probably will. But I think Penn State can cover that 14.5. I really do. Or it's another case of the Hoosiers just absolutely dismantling the team because they have done that week in and week out. 45-point win at Maryland, 56-6 win against UCLA, 38-13 win against Michigan State. And then before that, it was a 63-10 win against Illinois and wins on the road against Iowa and Oregon. They really have been one of the best teams in the country, one of the best resumes in the country. They probably have a better resume than Ohio State, really, when you stack it up side by side. Texas is getting some of that momentum back towards the Ohio State side, and Ohio State should be the #1 team in the country. I'm not arguing with that at all. But I just watch out for Penn State.
Yeah. And Indiana's just been blowing teams out. That offense is...
Yeah, can that sustain too? I don't know.
And I think, too, it's like the natural sentiment, like it's Indiana. Like it's still so hard to fully get bought in.
Yeah, that's probably what it is. But I don't know. I just don't... Ohio State or Penn State still has the players... Drew Aller's hurt, but they still have the players on the field that they had at the beginning of the season when they were the #2 team in the country.
Yeah.
Like, it's still a lot of the same guys. It's a lot of the same guys on the defensive side of the ball. Is this the best defensive team Indiana will play all season. There's
Especially on the road in that environment.
It could be the case where this is the best defensive team they'll play all regular season. So I don't know. Just keep an eye on it. And then LSU Alabama. If this was a spot where Brian Kelly's still the coach at LSU, that's definitely on the slate of games we talk about. I just think this is another case of Alabama winning another game.
Yeah, they've been really good. They're simply just better than LSU. Downward spiral there. Do they get that head coach firing boost that we talk about?
Yeah,
Maybe.
that'd
be funny. But especially because, as we've discussed, there's been all this talk about Brian Kelly that's come out and how he isn't the greatest person, and everyone kind of knew that already. But yeah, I have Alabama here. Ty Simpson is a really good quarterback. He's going to go top 5, and they're good. Kalen DeBoer's figured it out. It's impressive. With where that dialogue was like a month ago to now, he's done a very nice job.
Yeah, it's a coach of the year candidate in terms of where the sentiments were beginning of the season, right after that Florida State loss. He's not going to win coach of the year because it's a coach at Alabama. He has all the resources in the world. That's not what the award is designed for. But the way he has righted the ship, I agree with you. It's been very impressive. We were leaning towards it, calling him dead in the water after that because it's like you lose another road game that you shouldn't. But yeah,
they're used to this Saban, they don't mess around.
But one of the best teams in the country, hands down. Let's get to the NFL.
Let's do it.
You want to start feast or potato famine? We're going to do 2 feast picks each, and we're going to do 2 potato famine picks each. Feast, little recap. Feast is 2 teams we think are going to
feast.
Feast, yeah. We think we like their spots. We like their matchups. We think they're going to win the game pretty handily, or at least more than people are expecting them to. Take advantage of the spot they're in. And then 2 potato famine picks are the exact opposite. 2 teams we think are due for a bad performance or due for a loss. We don't like their matchup this Sunday. So you want to start?
Yeah, I'd love to. Baltimore at Minnesota. Gonna
feast for the Ravens?
Yeah, the Ravens are going to feast on a Minnesota Vikings team that somehow finds a way to get wins, but I haven't seen anything from J.J. McCarthy, anything that's impressive enough to pick them against a Baltimore team that looked electric on Thursday Night Football. Lamar Jackson gets this long week to prepare for a Minnesota team that's just not very good. I think they win this game by double digits on the road and make a statement as they continue to make their way to winning another AFC North title.
We are not in the J.J. McCarthy fan club. We haven't been in the Vikings fan club all season, partly because of that. And I was mad at the Lions for losing that game last week.
Yeah.
I really was. I was mad at the Lions. I didn't even pick Detroit in anything. I didn't even have money on them. I was just mad at the Lions for losing that game and injecting the Vikings are actually a serious football team conversation again.
Yes.
Because I agree with you. I don't think they're a very good team.
No.
And I don't think we're gonna be watching them in January in the playoffs.
I'd be shocked. I'd be very shocked.
I hope Lamar Jackson starts to prove that. The Ravens just need to start stacking up wins. They dug themselves a big old hole with the Lamar Jackson injury and the poor defensive performances and all the injuries on that side of the ball beginning of the year.
Yeah.
They need to start stacking wins. They can't drop a game like this. They really can't. 4.5-point favorites in that one. My first feast pick, I want to take us to Berlin, Germany. I think the Colts are going to get it done. That 6.5 number has been the number of the day. Love it here. I love that Vegas is giving you the opportunity to just bet minus 6.5 and they can win by a touchdown or more and get you the money there. Same thing with the Vikings. I don't think this Falcons team is very good. I'm in strictly in the category where they're not good. They beat the Bills somehow, some way. I don't think they get a win like that the rest of the way.
Yeah.
I really don't. Daniel Jones, I think, bounces back after a terrible performance against Pittsburgh. I think that was more horseshoe up the you-know-where for the Steelers. That typical Mike Tomlin wins a game he shouldn't. It happens a few times every year. And I think they bounce back and they get the win, the first win post-trade deadline where they set the world on fire, trading 2 first-round picks and A.D. Mitchell to the Jets for Sauce Gardner. And we're kind of both in the boat where the Jets won that trade. They absolutely won that trade because how do you get 2 first-round picks? For instance, the Cowboys got 2 first-round picks for Micah Parsons. Mm-hmm. That's one of the best players in the NFL.
Yeah.
Sauce Gardner, very good player. He's not on that level of Micah Parsons, and it's the same haul pretty much. So the Colts overpaid. I think that's obvious here. But secondary was a big vulnerability for them. And it was like, if that was the same team before the Sauce Gardner trade coming here to play the Falcons, like, who was guarding Drake London? Who was covering Drake London?
Yeah.
You just saw Drake London torch the Patriots
What a
with
game.
Christian Gonzalez.
Yeah.
And Christian Gonzalez is one of the better cover guys in the NFL. So there was nobody on that Colts team that was going to be able to stop him. That's not to say that Indianapolis wouldn't have won the game anyways, but Sauce Gardner finally does give you a guy that can limit the other team's best receiver. They really didn't have that. So I like the trade, and they get him for the next 4 years too. Like, the Jets had just extended him, so they get the contract. They get the guy locked up for the next 4 years. So it's still an overpay by a significant margin, and it's still a trade where it's like, all right, let's maybe pump the brakes a little bit, because this could still be Daniel Jones' insanity run.
Yeah.
Where it's like, if he's on a 1-year deal, if you're going to take this and try to bottle it up and give him a big old contract for the next however many years, then, I mean, what are the odds that a year from now, 2 years from now, you're like either regretting that you extended Daniel Jones, or maybe he even falls off at the end of this year, you don't extend Daniel Jones, and then you're still in a spot of, we need a quarterback.
Yeah.
I think that's a very real possibility, which makes a trade like that risky. But I know I strayed pretty far away from this specific game, Colts-Falcons. I think the Colts are going to win. I just, we didn't really, now that I've gotten a chance to digest that trade and what that kind of means from a Colts front office, how they view the current team, how they view Daniel Jones in the current spot, I just think it's interesting.
It is interesting. I think that I'm never going to fault a team for going for it. So I respect
Absolutely.
that for Indianapolis, because I think it'd be easy for them, knowing what the Colts' preseason expectations were, to just be like, this is a great season, guys, let's try to build off of it. So I do respect that.
Yeah.
But it wasn't overpay. You don't know what you're going to get out of Daniel Jones, but you're still in a prime spot to host a playoff game, and that should be step one, and then go from there. Daniel Jones has won a playoff game. He won one on the road in Minnesota.
With the New York Giants.
Yes. So, I don't know. I mean, he leads the league in passing yards, so numbers don't lie. But it does feel like, let's pump the brakes a bit. But if they keep stacking wins, they're going to be in a good spot. I like that pick for Feast.
You got another one?
Yeah. My second Feast pick, I'm going to go with the Seattle Seahawks over the Arizona Cardinals. The Seahawks are just the better football team. They're really clicking at the right time. Jackson Smith-Njigba has proven that he's a top 3 receiver in football. He's just ridiculous. And the Cardinals have not a lot going for them. It's Jacoby Brissett again. Kyler Murray's supposed to be out for the next couple of weeks at least. And he's also being benched. It's like injury management. It's weird. I don't know what it means, but I think Seattle's going to win this game handedly. And they're in a spot where you got a clear path to go win the NFC West, as you mentioned. Rams-Niners play this week, so one of those teams is going to drop another. And very well, by Monday, Seattle could be at the top of this division.
It's Jacoby Brissett really just picked apart the Cowboys in prime time on Monday Night Football. Very different defense that he's going to be facing against the Seahawks Sunday afternoon. I agree with you. I think the Seahawks, that's another 6.5 number. I think they win by a touchdown or more. I'm really high on this Seattle team, really, really high on this Seattle team. I think they're very well coached with Mike McDonald. The defense is what you rest your cap on, but at the end of the day, the offense now has Jackson Smith-Njigba, who is establishing himself as one of the best receivers in the league, plus Cooper Kupp, who can really get open quite a few times during the span of a game in the intermediary routes. And then you have Rashid Shaheed, who gets open quite a few times a game. The deep stuff, like the receiving core is very well balanced, not to mention Torrey Horton, who has come onto the scene as a rookie. So the receiving core is stacked now after the Rashid Shaheed trade. I love that trade. We talked about that on our Wednesday morning show. It's the Seattle out, and then they have 2 running backs that they can trust.
Yeah, they're great.
Sam Darnold's just slinging it. There's a stat I saw where it measures how aggressive a quarterback is with making tight pocket throws, and Sam Darnold's right at the top of the list. That's why he's been intercepted 5 times, but that's also why he's been so good this year, is because he is not scared of making the big-time throws.
Lets it rip.
It's Sam Darnold and Matt Stafford that just lets it rip with hard throws to deliver and complete, and he does so. and part of that is his good receivers as well. Stafford's got Devontae Adams on his side. Caleb Williams actually was ranked dead last in that stat. I thought that was interesting. It was him and Jacoby Brissett right at the bottom of the barrel in terms of they're not making the tough throws that need to be made. My other feast pick, I hate to do it, but it's the Rams on the road. I think they get the job done.
I was about to pick this. So.
Okay, so I feel less bad about it now, picking against Aiden's Niners. I picked the Rams. I famously picked the Rams on Thursday Night Football the first time these two teams faced.
Back.
In our Survivor League, where you pick a team, or your Eliminator Challenge, where you pick a team each week just to win the game. You just got to pick a team to win the game each week of the season, but you can't reuse the same team once you've already picked them. That Thursday night game, I picked the Rams. It was like the most injured the Niners team had been up to that point. They might even be more injured now.
I think they are.
But I didn't think there was a chance at the Rams' place that they were going to lose to a banged-up Niners team, and yet they did. I'm going to just pick the Rams again here. I don't think they go 0-2 against their rivals with how closely contested this NFC West is. It's not like the Niners have gotten all their reinforcements back.
No.
They've really just lost more and more guys on the defensive side of the ball. And so I think McVay gets it done. I don't think he'll allow himself to go 0-2.
Yeah, that's why I also have the Rams winning by a touchdown. I don't see a world where they drop both games to the Niners in a season. Now, they did beat the Niners both games last year, so it is possible that sweeps occur in the season series, but yeah, Rams are going to get it done.
There's been MVP momentum for Stafford.
I've been hearing that.
And like at first you kind of scoff at it just because he's almost 40 years old and you don't think of him being one of the best quarterbacks in the league with the likes of Mahomes and Josh Allen and Lamar. But his stats, he's got almost 2,200 passing yards, which is right around top of the league. He's got 21 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. 2 interceptions when I just said he ranks at the top of making aggressive throws.
Yeah.
And so he's been so good. Puka and Devontae Adams. I think Puka's injured now.
Yeah,
I don't think he's playing in this game, but Devontae has been great, and their defense is second best in the league in terms of scoring defense. So it's a really, really good team, and I have them as my second feast pick. All right, couple potato famine picks. What you got?
My first potato famine pick is actually the Chargers on Sunday Night Football. It's a risky spot, but I just feel like the Steelers win these games. That's what it comes down to. And they won these games last week against the Indianapolis Colts. The Los Angeles Chargers have kind of cruised the last couple of weeks, but they still don't have Joe Alt. That offensive line is always shaky, and Justin Herbert really needs it against a powerful front from Pittsburgh. I expect this to be a sloppy game. That over-under's at 45.5. I really like the under there. And I think Pittsburgh ends up getting the win, moving to 6-3, and just continuing to have a signature Steelers season where, in reality, they're not very good, but they find a way to get wins every once in a while.
I think this is one of these games where you can just dial in on one unit versus one unit's matchup, and that kind of tells you how this game might go, and that is exactly what you said, the offensive line for the Chargers versus the defensive line for the Steelers. Who is going to
Stop TJ Watt?
I
don't know.
Both world-class tackles. The Chargers were coming into this season with 2 of the best offensive tackles in the league, in Slater and in Joe Alt. Both of them are injured now. It's terrible, terrible injury luck. But in this type of game, you can't leave anybody on an island against TJ Watt. You're going to have to double and triple team him, and then the other guys on that Steelers defense can get home to the quarterback. To get to Justin Herbert. Herbert has ranked at the top of the league in terms of scramble yards this year because of how many times the pocket has collapsed on him. So if the Steelers recognize that, they spy him all game long. I think if there's a defensive plan here, that's how they win this football game. So I like that pick too. I don't think the Chargers get it done in prime time either. My first famine pick was, I think this is when the Patriots'
I agree.
luck runs out. And I say luck, that's no disrespect. They have established themselves as a good football team and as a playoff team this season, but they're going on the road to Tampa. And I was originally making this pick because I thought Bucky Irving was going to be back for the Buccaneers. It sounds like he's not. He's still not practicing. I still like the Buccaneers in this spot. I think the Patriots how many games are they going to be able to win in a row? They have not lost in like months, it feels like. And there's been signs. Drake May is getting sacked time and time again. He has like almost 20 sacks accumulated against him in the last 3 games. That's very concerning. They don't have a bye week for a while, so they've had to play a lot of weeks in a row. I just like the Buccaneers to get it done at home. Christian Gonzalez, I just said, struggled with Drake London. How well is he able to guard Emeka Egbuka tomorrow or on Sunday? That's a spot I'm looking at. And I just think Tampa has, the beginning part of the season, they were like, all right, this is a fun NFC pick to win that conference and get to the Super Bowl. And I think that's kind of gone away. They dropped a game, then they had a bye week. I think that momentum has kind of halted. Right now they're like the 6th team on the odds list to win the NFC. I think that's way too low. I think this is still Buccaneers team led by Baker Mayfield that can win games. When they can win close games, I think the Buccaneers get this one.
I'm right there with you. I think people have just forgotten how good the Buccaneers are with all these injuries. And in an NFC that's wide open, they're still in contention for that number 1 seed.
Yeah.
Like it's real. So if you
It's
go
a game
on a
they
run,
need.
if you go on a run starting now, you can get a bye in the first round. You can have the Super Bowl go through Tampa Bay. And just a couple years removed after they had Tom Brady and won that Super Bowl, it's crazy that now it's Baker Mayfield at the helm. And you can still have that same conversation.
A little concerned about the Patriots running game too. They refused to give TreVeyon Henderson the bulk of the RB1 carries just because I think it's because they don't like his blocking abilities.
Yeah.
So even when Ramondre was out last weekend, they gave some guy I never heard of a lot of carries, a lot of goal line carries. He got a touchdown over TreVeyon Henderson. So I don't know. The running back room, that situation in New England is pretty weird. I mean, even in this game, Rachaad White is a leading rusher coming into this game, and he's not even a starting running back himself just because of the Bucky Irving injury. So I like the Buccaneers. Your last potato family pick.
Let's go to primetime the next night, Monday Night Football. I think the Eagles are going to beat the Packers on the road.
This is exactly what I had. The Packers were my last potato family.
Yeah, last week they were awful at home against the Carolina Panthers. There hasn't been a point this year where I've said they're good because we've continued to convince ourselves with the preseason expectations that they're talented, and if they really were good, they wouldn't have tied with Dallas on the road, or if they really were good, they wouldn't have lost at home to Carolina last week. Like, there's so many blips where you just continue to question it. And it's been inconsistency from Jordan Love. Like, I don't know what I'm going to get out of him each week. I think they should have added an offensive skill position at the trade deadline, a wide receiver, because that room is filled with a bunch of guys that do the exact same thing. And against these elite teams like the Philadelphia Eagles, it's going to give. And for the Eagles to be plus money here on the road, I think that is a very wise bet on Monday Night Football.
It's a spread I woke up to when I was looking at the slate and seeing who I wanted to pick for my Feast and Famine picks. This was Green Bay minus 2.5. That was like an hour ago. It's already down to Green Bay minus 1.5. It's a Monday night game. There's a very real possibility this crosses over the line, and Eagles are favored by the time we get to that game on ESPN. I agree with you. Especially the Tucker Kraft injury. That was because of the receiving room. Tucker Kraft was the guy on like 3rd and 7. We need a first down conversion. The ball was going to Tucker Kraft. Yeah. And with the Brock Bowers injury, it was like, is Kraft the best tight end in the league? And he tears his ACL. It's a terrible injury for them. And I think they start facing the ramifications of that starting this week against Philly. It's an Eagles team that are the favorites to win the NFC right now. That's for a reason. FanDuel doesn't just throw numbers out there at you. That's for a reason. Vegas thinks they're getting back to the Super Bowl as it stands right now. They need a win like this on the road. The Eagles kind of need to get a marquee win under their belt.
They don't have one yet.
I think this is where it is. I'm in agreement. Any other NFL game you want to touch on before we call it a day?
Let's look. I think the Jets are going to win this week at home against the Browns. It's gross, but I hope nobody tunes in. But I do think the Jets are going to end up winning that ball game.
I would take Cleveland in that.
Okay.
So we'll differ on that
Okay,
one.
we'll differ on that. I know you mentioned kind of off air Saints-Panthers. That could be a trap, and I'm kind of with you.
I still like New Orleans to maybe get it done.
I think that is a legitimate pick that I could get behind. And it could just be not believing in Carolina yet. I think that might be what it is.
They're sitting there at a 5-4 record. If you would have told me the Panthers are 6-4 through 10 weeks of the season, I would have called you crazy.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely
And
insane.
they have a shot at home against the Saints, one of the worst teams in the league, if not the worst team, to get to 6-4.
Yeah.
And so I just don't know if that happens. The NFC South always delivers
Yes.
weird results
And
like
I think
this.
that's, too, what
And
it
the
is.
Saints are always kind of involved. So.
Yeah, and Tyler Shuck, get your first career win.
Yeah.
Why not? And then Lions Commanders is another one, but apparently Jaden Daniels might not be out as long as people think because it's just a dislocated elbow. I've been reading
It just looks like a gruesome injury.
it was gruesome, I know, but I've been reading some people think he can come back in a month, and I'm wondering how.
It was non-throwing arm. That surely helps. But what do you
Oh.
have in, speaking of quarterback injuries, Stroud is out this week for the Texans with a concussion. They're at home against their AFC South rivals, the Jaguars. What do you think happens
That's
there?
why I picked Jacksonville.
I also have Jacksonville.
And I would have picked Houston if Stroud was healthy. That's what it was. I said, CJ Stroud isn't healthy. The offense didn't look that efficient with Davis Mills last week. They ended up losing that game, a game they should have won. So Jacksonville, they're another team where in that AFC South, it's like who can stay as close to the Colts in case they collapse, which is very possible. And Jacksonville is the best chance to stay in striking distance.
It's a good point. It's a great point. All right.
That's all I got. I'm really fired up for this weekend. A lot of good games. College football definitely takes center stage this weekend. This NFL slate's it's decent, but the best games for the NFL come on primetime, that Monday night game.
Yeah. Well, and this November of college football, because the first November was November 1st, there are 5 weeks of college football in this month to wrap up the season. And there's always, I was talking to you about it, the first ever number one ranked team in the first ever college football playoff selection show rankings was Mississippi State. That never ended up panning out. It's just there's always carnage after the first edition of the rankings.
Yeah.
We're going to get that starting this weekend. There's going to be results that just throw us off the scent of whatever we thought we were smelling. So those rankings are going to change drastically every single week, and I'm excited to see what games, what matchups, what results start the domino effect there.
Yeah, that BYU Tech game day going there. It's a great way to start it off, and then you have Mizzou A&M after, and the rest of the slate's pretty loaded.
Yeah. All right. That was Irish Hello live. Our Friday shows giving you the picks for the football games. We will see you next Tuesday morning, 7 a.m. from the Bill